Welcome to the Visionary Chronicles, a podcast dedicated to uncovering the strategies and insights that drive innovative, disruptive businesses. Join us as we explore the mindsets, cultures, and solutions powering the next generation of industry leaders and creative trailblazers. Whether you're seeking to inject new life into your organization or spark transformative growth, the Visionary Chronicles is your guide to executable, cutting-edge business strategy. Hello and welcome to the Visionary Chronicles. Thanks for being with us again today. Really appreciate it as always. And today we're going to talk about something that virtually every brand is probably the number one or two question that I always get asked with Liquid Mind when we're working with in particular, our entrepreneurial brands is, how do I get funding? How do I get investment to get my idea off the ground? And many times it's just an idea. They don't have any organic revenue. They have no distribution. And they really need to have a plan around how to pitch to PE firms or VC firms, whatever it may be, in order to gauge their interest in wanting to fund their idea. So today, I'd like to talk about, in this episode, pitching your idea and then securing your investment. How do you go about it? How do you do it? And as you know, I've had several other podcasts on this as well, and you might want to go back and check it out at the Visionary Chronicles. You can check it out at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, virtually any podcast streaming service the Visionary Chronicles is on. And again, I want to make a quick pitch. Thank you those who have subscribed to the Visionary Chronicles, making us the number one visionary podcast and top 50 marketing business podcast on FeedSpot. So again, thank you, those who are supporting us. But more importantly, like I always say, is the feedback that we get from the entrepreneurs, business owners, as to how they've applied the knowledge that we give to them through the Visionary Chronicles. That to me is the most rewarding. And again, reach out to me if you have any questions on the podcast. Please subscribe, or if you like what we're talking about, make sure that you reach out to others and hopefully they'll find the information as useful as you have. Or reach out to me directly at Brian, B-R-Y-A-N, at liquidmindsite.com, liquidmindsite.com. Happy to answer any questions you may have. But going back to our episode today. So today we're going to talk about, the subject is how to pitch your idea. And again, this kind of applies to not just entrepreneurs, but those with an idea. 3 requirements for securing your investment. And there's many other reasons for why PE firms, VC firms fund an idea and or a company, an entrepreneurial venture. But as you know with me, I like to simplify things. Having been through this so many times before, I want to make sure that I make this clear and easy for those who are trying to pitch their idea and get funding for their company. So this idea of pitching an idea and securing an investment, in any what I call this visionary journey that you go through, there'll always come a time when you need resources to scale. But in this instance, you're not really talking about scale. You're just talking about effectively what I call getting your wings and getting off the ground. And that often means presenting your idea to potential investors. And that's really a fearful thing for a lot of entrepreneurs, or a majority of them. As we're all aware, most people would rather die than give a presentation in front of people. So now you're talking about an idea you're passionate about, and any type of negative feedback is not taken very well. So you want to know, how do you go about that? How do the entrepreneurs pitch their idea? And number one. Number two, then eventually get the funding for their idea. So this can be a defining moment. A real defining moment, I say, with entrepreneurs. And it's really vital that they prepare for this pitch thoroughly, but make it efficient and make it simple to understand and clear as to what your objective and expectations are, because that's what investors are going to want to see. And in addition to that, presenting confidently as to what you're talking about is going to be achieved and executed in the marketplace. And understand what your investors look for in a pitch. These are all things, and again, I'll mention this is a defining moment for you. And it's vital to prepare thoroughly, present confidently, and understand what investors are looking for in a pitch. There's nothing worse in all the pitches that I've been in over the years than to hear an entrepreneur talking about something investors don't care about. Yeah, it's that black and white, something they just don't care about. So today, what I'll do is I'll break down 3 essential requirements for securing the investment you need to bring your vision to life. And I say bringing it to life because it's really not going to be brought to life until you get adequate and proper funding from somebody. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, by the way, for the PE or VC. Those are more challenging. Sure, they have the money, but normally they're waiting for you to prove your concept out. It's a rare occasion where they're going to take a chance on a concept unless they truly believe in what you're pitching actually is something that they feel is viable in the marketplace. So I also like to start out with some statistics. And kind of this general statistic everybody talks about is this: 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years, and 80% of the balance of startups fail in the next 5 years, which to a certain degree is true. But let me just give you some statistics here. So according to various studies and reports, many startups fail due to a lack of funding or undercapitalization. And that's just a given fact. And here's some statistic on startup failure, some actual statistics from legitimate studies due to insufficient funding, by the way. So research by CB Insights found that the number 2 reason startup fails after, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, no market need, is running out of cash, 29%. So the 2 we're going to hit on today are those 2, no market need and running out of cash. 29% in the first year. A study by the Entrepreneur magazine and U.S. Bank found the exact similar percentages of 82% of businesses fail are due to cash flow problems. So this can be an ongoing concern. It can be a startup, whatever it is. I understand that these statistics can kind of flow together. But the reality is that for entrepreneurs, those pitching ideas, cash flow and no market need is the main contributors to failure. So the study by U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics found that 20% of small businesses fail in their first year, often due to lack of funding. So again, we're just pounding it into you that lack of funding, cash flow issues. So in summary, between 20 to 30% of businesses fail directly due to inadequate funding or cash flow issues. So that's why we're talking about this today. It's the predominant reason that businesses fail is cash flow, funding, and no market need. Those are 2 interrelated, by the way, because investors want to know, is there a market need? And you don't get the cash flow until you define that what your market need is a reality, and they believe in it. So this emphasizes a critical importance of a few things, of securing sufficient capital and maintaining healthy finances when launching a new business venture. And, proper financial planning, effective fund raising, effective cash flow management are essentials for startups. And they really allow you to overcome these barriers we'll talk about it, and the chances of your long-term success. So really, when we look at this, there's 3 areas that I looked at when all of the pitches that I've been on over the years with entrepreneurs, with Liquid Mind, and we do help all of our brands with these presentations and finding funding for their company because they've never done it. And there's many reasons why they haven't done it. And we find that those that are trying to pitch their idea don't understand, and they've got too much passion, too much personal passion, let's say, in their idea to really understand why the investors are listening to them and why they would fund their company. So requirement number 1, when you're pitching your idea and securing an investment, is the value proposition. You need a deep understanding of your idea's value as a core to the successful pitch to investors. Investors want to see how your product or service really stands out. What's your point of difference in a crowded market and why people will buy it? Now, the thing that I see more often than not is not investors, but entrepreneurs, when they're pitching their idea, they think they're the only one with this idea. And that's where personal passion comes from. They need to really open their eyesight, go out into the marketplace. And I always tell the entrepreneurs when we're whiteboarding this presentation is get outside the four walls of your building. Yeah, it's a great idea, but to you, it's a great idea, but to others, they're normalizing your idea and trying to understand why the value you think you have is going to translate to the marketplace and allow you to be successful. So I always say when we whiteboard also to say, consider answering the why you, why now question. Yeah, your value proposition needs to highlight how your solution is not only unique, but essential for your target market. So there's a lot in that sentence. It's not only why you, why now, but it's also your value proposition is a solution. Is it a problem trying to find a solution or a solution trying to find a problem? And then the second piece to that is your target market. That's more often than not where I see these presentations and these ideas fall apart. Is many times investors or even will ask is, who's your target market? And either it's too broad or it's too narrow, or it's not specific enough around who you're targeting. And the target market is one thing. Your competitive analysis is another thing you need to understand from a value perspective. Why are they going to move away from a current brand and move into your product? So you need to answer all these questions on the value proposition side for investors to really get on board with your idea. So the investors are really looking for clarity. And I highlight the word clarity because they just want to know. Keep it simple. You have to know what the investors are going to, I mentioned earlier, you have to know what investors are going to be looking for. So they're looking for clarity here on value proposition. They need to understand two things quickly and clearly why your idea has a place in the market. There's a reason they call it an elevator pitch. But with the attention span of 5 to 6 seconds in today's world, can you imagine pitching an investment of your idea and not having clarity in this marketplace? It's crazy. And it's the reason these pitches don't succeed. So they need to understand quickly and clearly why your idea has a place in the market. And when you say market, it's not only the distribution channel, but it's also the target market and how you're going to build foot traffic, both online and in store, if you're going to go through wholesale distribution or e-com. So it's understanding the value proposition, understanding your market, understanding your competition, understanding your target market, and how you're going to build that distribution and define your point of difference and build revenue. So focus instead on giving a high-level overview of how your product or service addresses a specific pain point first. And even better, a pain point that the investors or then also those across the table have a similar pain point and don't see a solution in the marketplace yet. How it stands apart, why it's positioned to win. This is your chance. This is your chance to grab their attention, but be concise, passionate, and compelling on how you present it. And I go back to clarity and concise. Don't ramble. Be really clear on your pitch, on your value proposition. So that's requirement one. And I always give you a little bit of a tip here at the end. So here's a tip for the value proposition. Try consolidating your value proposition into a single sentence. This exercise forces you to what I call distill. I'm a big bourbon drinker, so I say distill. It's meant to bring things out that matter the most, giving you a powerful way to open your pitch with the investors. So it's really forcing you to be concise and with clarity. The second one is a requirement is data validation. People can throw around all kinds of numbers, but really at the end of the day, what investors want to know is validation of the data. So once you've nailed down your value proposition, the second requirement is data validation. So an idea is only as strong as the market validation behind it. And the validation through data. And data is a lot more tangible today than it was 10 years ago. So you want to make sure that when you're pitching your idea and defining the value proposition, and then the refinement is through data validation. So when you look at it, investors see countless pitches. And your idea is only as strong as the market validation and data behind your idea. So many of these big ideas need to have evidence that people in your target demographic will buy into it. And skip over the personal passion unless it's decisive, clarified, and clear. So to make your pitch credible, you need complex data supporting your concept's demand, growth potential, and scalability. Again, 3 areas that you need to have for data validation is this complex data, and can be complex, but it's also more tangible. So that's the good news. So it's 3 areas: concepts, demand, growth potential, and scalability is crucial. You can't have a narrow market and have 20 customers and all of a sudden you've got 100% market share. That doesn't work that way. You need scalability, is defining your market and being able to grow market share and continue a sustainable growth path with scalability. And the other part is share your metrics if you've already launched your product in a test market. And it's more definable if it's related to your target market and you've already told them that you're going after. It doesn't matter if it's a small scale. It's okay. If you've done your homework and you've got a small scale test launch with the target market and you've shown that you have and do have testimonials and purchase orders and scale and growth with that very small test market, that's much better than nothing. So that's not a bad thing to do in the beginning and to have that in your presentation when you present your idea to the investors. So if you have customer feedback, showcase it. Hey, if you've got videos, that's great testimonial to the point of difference with your product. Now, it can't be canned. It can't be something that's scripted. It has to be something that's authentic because investors will read through that. So be careful what you talk about with testimonials. Be careful with your videos. Be careful with those that purchased your product to make sure it's authentic, or else you lose your credibility through non-authentication on the videos. So if you're at an earlier stage, let's say that you don't have these testimonials, reference market research demonstrating demand with similar products. Remember, investors want to reduce their risk. They're at risk as much as possible. So by providing this data, you're not only providing your idea, but also showing that you've done your due diligence. That's what they want to see. So here's a tip on the data validation side. So avoid being overly optimistic with projections. Be realistic. Present realistic data and be transparent about the potential challenges and market shifts. The investors will appreciate your honesty and understand, because the expectation is that you realize your vision. The expectation is not that you've told a bunch of hype and sold a bunch of hype and the vision does not become reality. So honesty can be refreshing to investors and shows them you're thinking about the big picture and not just selling a dream. So that's my tip on data validation. The third requirement is profitability path and realization of that profitability. It's one thing to have a path, and I put realization in there as an additional item to this requirement, because I've seen so many pitches where they do a great job with value proposition, data validation, and profitability path. That doesn't mean they ever got on the path or created a path. They just say, hey, it would be great. Here's where we think we can go, but they never realize it or show how they're going to realize their vision. So make sure that you have that in your third requirement. So the third and final requirement for securing an investment is to show your path to profitability. So even visionary ideas need a solid business model to convince investors they'll see a return. Most hits with VCPE firms is going to be 20, 30%. So they realize that 8 out of 10 potentially are going to fail, but they get 2 that will succeed, that will make up for the other 8. It's a crazy statistic when you think a baseball hitter is really efficient and effective and a great hitter at 300. He's incredible and legendary at 400. But 6 or 7 times out of 10, they're either striking out or out. So it's a crazy statistic, but that's why they're even more cautious with who they put money into. In this part of the pitch, you'll want to outline steps you'll take to grow your customer base, increase revenue, market share, and eventually turn a profit. Outline your revenue streams, how you'll scale, and the overall financial trajectory and the realization timeline for when you see that happening. So this is where investors want to understand how their capital is going to be used to drive sustainable growth. And I say sustainable because it goes back to the analysis of be careful about how you define your market. That's going to be, you may never even get to requirement 3. They may say, hey, on value proposition doesn't really move us. The data validation is insufficient. And financial trajectory is great, but the realization of that financial trajectory is even more important. So this is where investors want to understand how their capital is going to be used to drive sustainable growth, as I said. So they're assessing whether you know your numbers or if there's a clear path forward that minimizes risk wherever possible. And so you'll want to detail essential cost, anticipated cash flow, potential milestones for break even or profitability. These are all important aspects. Again, essential costs, anticipated cash flow, potential milestones. This is where we're going to put up barriers and also path to profitability of where you see realizing the return on investment for the capital that they've infused into your company. So investors want to see that you're not just dreaming, but they want to have a realistic strategy of achieving success. So here's a tip on this one. If you get to requirement 3, congratulations. Not a lot of people get there. So consider offering 3 tiers of projections. I think this is an effective way to do it. Conservative, realistic, and optimistic. It shows investors you're prepared for multiple scenarios, that you can weather the storms, that you understand there will be storms, and every day is not sunny and bright. So you're prepared for multiple scenarios. It instills confidence in your ability to adapt as your business grows. So again, in conclusion, so let's recap these 3, what I call essential requirements for securing investment. And I put them in 3 again because I want to make this simple for you. At Liquid Mind, we do this all the time with pitches. We help our small entrepreneurial brands, and sometimes we help our big brands that are having cash flow issues to reestablish their vision, to reignite the fire inside of their brand, whatever it may be. But investors want to know and have a passion around what they're putting their money into. So there's 3 areas again. So let's recap these for securing investment. Our number 1, understand and communicate your value proposition effectively and efficiently. Number 2 is validate your visionary idea with tangible market data and demand. Number 3 is show clear path to the profitability of your company. So remember, a well-prepared pitch demonstrates more than just an idea. Try to be realistic around what you're pitching to your investors, but understand what their needs are and what they need to see coming away from the presentation. It shows the investors that you're committed, knowledgeable, and equipped to turn your vision into a reality. And one last piece of advice for the entrepreneurs out there, having again been through this so many times at Liquid Mind. Bring your passion, but understand passion is not just your personal passion. It's passion around driving the vision, an insight that you have for the marketplace and your product to overcome the barriers and to define your point of difference and to turn the path to profitability into reality. So your passion combined with preparation is what makes your pitch memorable to investors and what gets investors really excited. I've seen that many times. And you can read the room fairly quickly after the first part of the presentation if they prepared properly or they have not. You're instilling confidence. And this is a classic case of people can read you within the first 5 to 10 seconds of you coming into the room and starting your presentation. So hit a home run right out of the gate. So I hope this episode gives you some actionable insights for your next pitch. Remember, with a vision, there's no limit to what you can achieve. You must believe in yourself first, prepare relentlessly, and stay committed to your purpose and vision of your company. So I always say, stay true, stay authentic, be great, and enjoy the journey along the way. Again, thank you for listening to the Visionary Chronicles today. Always appreciate your time and have a great day. And I look forward to the next Visionary Chronicles. Thank you for listening to the Visionary Chronicles today. Really appreciate your time. Realize that you're extremely busy. And thank you to those also that have made us the #1 visionary and top 50 marketing global podcasts as ranked by FeedSpot. Also, thank you to those that have also purchased the Visionary brand, the success formula behind the world's most visionary brands, making us a Amazon bestseller, as well as winning the Reader's Favorite Award for Best Nonfiction Marketing Genre Book, still available through all distribution channels. And also, if you like what you hear with the Visionary Chronicles podcast, please subscribe or forward this to someone you know that may enjoy what we're talking about with the Visionary Chronicles. And you'll also get a free ebook edition. And it's available through all subscriptions: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, iHeart, Google Podcasts, all available for subscription no matter what you listen to. And also, with the release of the Visionary brand, we're also just finished our master course located at thevisionaryfiles.com. It's a 18 video learning courses, almost 2 hours of visionary lessons on what we're talking about with the Visionary brand today. So if you could pass this along as well, again, it's available at thevisionaryfiles.com. Just finished that this quarter. We have over 2,100 entrepreneurs and brand leaders who have already taken the course. And also, if you have any questions on the podcast, feel free to reach out to me at Liquid Mind, where we have free meetings that we provide. We also partner with startups, mid to large cap consumer brands, empowering these businesses to think differently, be different. We drive a passionate culture and to tell them to execute relentlessly. I'm available at liquidmindsite.com. Also, Brian at liquidmindsite.com, and also Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to me. Always love to hear your comments and feedback.